Welcome to the episode 25 of Take It EV 25.
I'm Andrew.
I think people know you. We're here today to talk about, how do you say it? The H word.
The H word. What, Hyundai.
There you go. That's the. I can't. I'm just saying Hyundai. So, which is apparently not good, not correct.
I've been berated on my videos for saying every way possible. So someone in my video said, "No, you've got to say Hyundai," and then someone from South Korea said, "That's not correct. You've got to say it blah 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 some other way." So, look, it's whatever works, isn't it? They don't care in their adverts, in the Hyundai adverts. They call it Hyundai over here, so it's fine.
So presumably Kia is just called Kia. Let's just establish one fact: on the internet, you're never right. There's always somebody who thinks they know better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we could just call it H and K, I suppose. But no, we'll go. It's fine. Hyundai and Kia.
Anyway, we're both kind of fanboys of Hyundai and Kia because it's the same group, isn't it? At the end of the day,
it is.
Yeah. And we're very excited that they have actually now decided to have a unified EV platform.
And
I read
I'm ridiculously excited. Yeah.
Let's just roll with it because this is going to be a short episode because we're recording this on Zoom, and if we kicked out of Zoom, so be it.
Then it all just falls apart, doesn't it? So I probably everyone that listens to your show would know what the E-GMP platform is all about, right?
What does it stand for, actually? Do you know?
Electric Global Modular Platform.
Wow. I'm putting you on a spot there.
I should win a prize for that. If this was a pub quiz, the geekiest pub quiz on earth, I'd be doing fine. But yeah, so the E-GMP platform is, for those who don't know, it's Hyundai's proper EV platform, dedicated EV platform, and Hyundai and Kia are one and the same effectively. So they'll be using this wonderful platform, and it brings lots of things to the table, like better efficiency apparently, and better safety. It's rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive from the beginning, and it's whatever size they need to make it to be. So it's exciting because up until now, it's the Kia e-Niro and the Soul and the Hyundai Kona and the Ioniq are all based on fossil fuel cars. The amazing thing is, though, is that they're all very, very efficient. So it's pretty amazing how they've managed to get so efficient on effectively a fossil fuel platform, isn't it?
I think that's why everyone loves them so much. Like, there's so many e-Niros around where I live now. Whenever I go for a longer drive, there isn't a half an hour that I don't go past one, a pure electric one. And I know loads of people who used to have Leafs in the village now have e-Niros because I can see them parked in the same spots.
Okay.
Some of them actually, there's a lady down the road who's got a vanity reg, and she's got the same reg on the e-Niro now as she used to have on the Leaf.
Okay. Is it? It's not Leaf, is it? It's not something like Leaf.
No.
1, 2, 3.
Probably something presumably to do with her surname, or I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I know it's a lady, but that's all I know. I never spoke to her. I'm a shy man. I don't speak to people in person. I just,
Neither do I.
I just interview people over the internet. I'm joking. But yeah, there's quite a lot of them, and like you said, Kia Niro and all the others have this sort of they have to be universally adaptable to different powered / drivetrains. But finally they've decided to actually have a platform, and there's quite a few benefits of having a platform. One of them, obviously, the fact that you don't have to leave so much space in the front to the potential fossil engine, so you can move the wheelbase out, which means there's more space in the cabin. And they're extremely well. They've always been extremely efficient. I remember kind of halfway regretting not getting the Ioniq. Initially, I got a Nissan Leaf. If you go back on this channel quite a few years ago, I have 2 or 3 videos where I've recorded very quickly in a original Ioniq, the OG, And I was blown away by the range. Even though it had a smaller battery than my Nissan Leaf, it actually could do about 40% more range. And I was like, how is that even possible? But somehow, well, yeah, I'm not going to waste have an episode to explain how how it is actually much trickier than you think to design an electric motor to be more efficient. But they've actually looked into that, whereas people at Nissan obviously didn't, which is a bit of a shame because it could have been a great platform because they had Nissan had a dedicated EV platform with Nissan Leaf from the get-go, and they could have been way ahead of the competition have they improved on it year upon year.
Yeah, they had a wasted opportunity there, didn't they? And Hyundai, what they've done is pretty amazing, really. I mean, given that the Nero is so efficient, it blows me away. I know I do tweet about it if I get particularly good. I mean, but I was getting at the moment when now the weather is getting a bit better. I say that, but it snowed today. But the weather's getting a bit better, and just the efficiency is just astounding. And I really can't believe it. So, and that's the funny thing is that these new cars, these new E-GMP platforms, to get back to the subject, the mileage is probably not going to be quite as good as the e-Niro is, for instance, because the e-Niro is smaller and probably lighter, and in many ways it's more efficient in that respect because it would just you get these insane like 6 miles per kilowatt hour I get regularly at the moment.
I can't achieve that. I actually got 4.3 the other day, which I was very proud of myself.
But even that, I know, even that is amazing, isn't it? That's amazing going in a platform that is not EV only. That's the thing. Yeah. But these new cars, then the Kia EV6 and the Ioniq 5 from Hyundai, they're much bigger cars, and I imagine much heavier, less aerodynamic. Well, I don't know. The EV6 looks very aerodynamic, but the Ioniq 5 looks pretty chunky, doesn't it?
I think the footprint is going to be similar to Kia e-Niro, maybe slightly longer. But
I think it's a bit longer,
because
isn't
the bonnet
it? So
will be shorter. They just like with the ID3 and ID4 with VW and with Nissan Leaf, you can achieve much more. Like I remember people have always been really surprised by how much space there was in the Nissan Leaf. Because the car looks small, right? It's got a footprint of a Golf. It has so much more space. Like Kia e-Niro has actually just a little bit more space than the Nissan Leaf had, even though it's much bigger. It's because there's so much space left for the fossil engine in the front. So I'm hoping that, well, we don't know from the pictures obviously and pure specifications how roomy it's going to be, how big it's going to look, because there's so many tricks that companies pull when they take photos of these cars. As you know, when you were showing photos to your wife, things can look deceiving. Some of the cars are purposely made made to look imposing, or kind of soft, depending on whatever the target audience may be for the particular car. But how many cars? Because I can't remember how many they said that they're going to produce by 2025 or release by 2025, but it's dozens, right? Based on that platform.
So I'm going to get this wrong. It's somewhere between 7 and 9. I think it's 9 for Kia.
Oh, okay.
Probably 9. It's probably 9 for both of them, actually. Yeah, and that's everything from like a Twizy style, very tiny thing, all the way up to like a minibus sort of thing, like a sort of an ID Buzz kind of thing, like a camper van. I think that's the plan anyway. I think they're going to do all the way up to that.
Yeah.
And they're going to release, and the schedule is quite punishing, really. So I think from this year, I think we're going to get 2 or 3, aren't we? From certainly from Kia, I think, new EVs. So you got the EV6, and then we should have 2 more, as far as I know.
But and then nobody knows what the sizes are going to be of the next ones, right? We know that they're going to cover the whole range, but we don't know exactly what's going to be next.
Yeah, but the good thing is we do have a bit of a clue in that you've got the Ioniq 5 from Hyundai and the EV6 from Kia. So they're not going to. I think they're never going to release the same size for both companies at the same time. So I think we'll probably get something like an EV3 from Kia. I reckon they'll kind of attack the sort of the Zoe style small car.
Okay.
That's my hunch. They're probably not going to. The E-Niro is a big success story, and I don't think they're going to eat into that market yet, because I think that's still got a few years worth of time. So I think that, I don't know. I think it would. I'm also hopeful that they release a small one, because then chances are it will be cheaper and a bit more accessible to everyone, and it will still be 800 volt. And this is the other thing that is amazing about the E-GMP platform, is it's 800 volt, which means it charges very fast. So the Ioniq 5 will be the fastest charging car, I think, other than the Porsche Taycan, which is also 800 volt.
Yeah, it can do. Well, Porsche Taycan can do 350 kilowatts in theory. I think they promised 250, and but it's a Porsche Taycan has a 90 something kilowatt hour battery, so obviously that's a massive battery. You need to be able to charge it very quickly, and I think some Audis actually have the same platform. I don't know if they're 800 volts as well.
But I don't remember. But they charge fast though. I mean, certainly the e-tron. But the e-tron GT is based on the Taycan. I'm not sure about the normal e-tron. That's something else, isn't it? But it does charge very fast and consistently fast.
Yeah, 800 volt system is something that I think most people will glance over, thinking whatever. But I actually, on the previous episode, I had a battery expert, and we discussed this at length. The episode was quite long, an hour and 20 minutes. Like some people,
it was a great episode though. Yeah, I mean, you say battery expert, but it's Ewan McTurk. Everyone should know. The doctor.
Yes, well, I mean, he knows his stuff basically.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And just to give you if you don't know as a viewer, because I don't know, I've had a sense that not everyone kind of cares about how big of a deal it is. It basically doubles the speed of charging over the same cable, essentially. So when you have a charger that can deliver 150 kilowatts, say, if you have a 400 volt base system, it's not going to be able to maximize that. So you're not going to be able to get the full 150 all the time. Whereas if you double the voltage, the current output could be lower, which means the battery is going to charge, like the way the curve is kind of the charging curve is, you're going to be able to squeeze in more. Again, you'd have to listen to the previous episode to get a bit more of a picture of why is that happening, because I'm still kind of wrapping my head around some of the things that he said to me. You mentioned in a previous podcast. But it's an amazing thing, and again, I think that's the future. That's the only kind of way forwards. What do you think? What is your take on the rear wheel drive? Because obviously, we have front wheel drive in Europe mostly because of safety, really. Never mind the fact that engines are usually in the front, so it's more convenient to actually drive the front wheels. But everyone's kind of learned to drive in the front wheel drive cars, and they're generally safer to drive, when you skid or whatever. And the response is completely different when you have a rear wheel drive. What do you think? Obviously, with EVs, you can control things better, so you can have a much more sophisticated stability program. But how do you think that's going to pan out?
I don't know, but I think because of the safety, all the controls that they've already got, and the I don't know if is it torque vectoring, or this is where I get a bit lost with it all. But whatever it does to control the wheels, I think is so good and so sophisticated in all these EVs. I mean, I never hear of like Model 3 owners having issues with control or anything. And I think the ID3 is rear wheel drive, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, VWs are.
Yeah. So and I'm guessing it makes sense in an EV platform to do rear wheel drive and all wheel drive. So yeah, I don't think it's a big deal, but I say that as someone who knows nothing. So I don't think it's probably, I think they're supposed to be more fun to drive, aren't they? Rear wheel drive.
Yeah, I haven't driven a rear wheel drive car in ages. But basically, what happens is if you're skidding along in the front wheel drive, you're actually supposed to add a bit of acceleration to pull yourself out of the skid. But in a rear wheel drive, you need to brake. If you press the accelerator, your back will kind of be happy, and you'll go sideways, and that's a lot of fun. I don't know how they designed the stability program systems on these, but it's obviously much easier on electric cars because you can almost in the real time control the amount of torque the motor produces, and the rest of it is just basically controlled, I think, by using brakes on each individual wheel. So you can actually, if the wheel is going too fast, you can basically in the front you can clamp it a little bit for a split second. And I'm sure it's very complicated, and I'm sure there's teams that are working specifically on that. So I'm simplifying it, but the whereas obviously on the ice cars, it's much harder to control the torque. So there's all sorts of complicated, things.
Probably without spending a fortune on a very expensive car.
But
I imagine.
But I was wondering why. I don't know why they decided to go because obviously the electric motors are so small. It doesn't matter whether it's going to be in the front or in the back. So I wonder why they've decided to put it in the back. Surely there's enough space in the front.
Yeah, there must be a really good reason for it. I mean, I can't imagine it's connected to people wanting a big frunk or anything. I mean, because I know like the Ioniq 5, for instance, and I imagine the EV6 as well. If you option it with the all-wheel drive version, then you get a smaller frunk.
Okay, so you do get a frunk with them.
You do, yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the EV6. I mean, certainly the Ioniq 5. Yeah. So, but I think they both do. But yeah, it's certainly smaller anyway. If you have an all-wheel drive, so if you do have a motor at the front as well, then it's a bit smaller. So I can't imagine they care too much about the frunk. So I don't know. I have no idea.
I think frunk. The only time I miss a frunk is the when I want to stash away the cables.
Yeah,
when I go on a long drive.
Yeah, it's a good sort of natural place, I think, to put the cables. Yeah. But more so probably if the charging port is at the front, then it kind of makes even more sense because it's literally right there.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
But anyway, but that's a whole other subject. You see, I'm happy. You see, because I know you and I have differing opinions on this, but you like the charge port at the front, don't you? And I'm much prefer at the back.
I've got I don't have any strong opinions about it. I'm happy to change my point of view, but I've seen people struggling with the with the parking at the chargers, and driving a Nissan Leaf, it was that easy. You just pulled in. Same with the Kia Niro. You pull in front in, even though I don't park that way. I usually reverse in. If you just have a post in front of the parking space, it's easy to just place yourself in a parking spot and the cable's right there. Whereas if the charging port is on either side of the car, front or back, whatever, it's usually quite tricky to kind of run the cable across the bonnet or and then you get Audi drivers parking, taking two spaces because they have to they don't want to touch the car, and it gets complicated. Put it in front, it's that easy. And everyone, well, not everyone, but like a lot of people prefer actually parking front in, especially in places like in the US, and it's also quite prevalent in the UK. In the rest of Europe, I think people are preferring to back in. Reverse into the space. So maybe for those people, it would be better to have. But then, I don't know. Again, it's just the placement of the cable. You have to put it on the side. It makes things difficult. And then the whole discussion started about the wireless charging on Twitter, which don't get me started on that. It's a separate episode. It's a material for a separate episode.
There are so many. Because you got GT line. Well, you got the normal, and then you got the GT line, and then you got the GT, which is pretty amazing. That's the GT one. I've missed one out. But then you've got rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, standard range, long range for each of those, apart from the GT, which just has the long range, and it's just all-wheel drive. So there's a whole mass of specifications that you can choose from. I mean, it's quite good because it means that I was going to say there's one for every budget, and there's not, because they're all really expensive.
I think that's the only. That would be my only criticism. I know this is early days, but kind of everyone was hoping that by now the prices will start to come down. But once you start making money on EVs, and charge more for them, it's very hard to let go. It's kind of like with taxes. Once you introduce a new tax, it's never going to go away. And I have a sneaky suspicion that EVs are going to be expensive. I mean, the cars going forwards are going to be expensive. Certainly, attending any sort of automotive conference in the past, when we were allowed to meet people, anytime I went to any of those, there would be always talks about OEMs trying to get away from the ownership model and actually introduce a subscription model. It's all because they want to have more money basically out of us. And one way to kind of force us into this is to introduce initially higher prices for. I know this is a bit gloomy, but I think that's where the reality is going with in the future, is that the cars will be more expensive and we'll be just left out to have to pay a subscription instead of owning ones.
Probably, yeah. Well, I mean, so I'm leasing my E-Neros, and I give that back in a few days. And when I was working it out, and it's just the amount of money I'm spending on that lease, or have spent on that lease over the 2 years period, is unbelievable. And the lease company are going to get that car, and it's in pretty good condition, and they're going to sell it, and it's probably going to be worth the same amount as it was 2 years ago. Yeah, maybe just £1,000 less or something, because it hasn't depreciated very much at all.
Yeah,
and even for a first edition E-Nero like I've got. So and they must know this. So you're right, it's sort of a subscription kind of thing. They're raking the money in, aren't they, doing that? I mean, like so that Volvo, the Volvo XC40 that's just come out, that's being offered for £1,000 a month, isn't it? Subscription.
Yeah, I think Volvo are taking the mick.
Which is just mad.
I don't know who they think they are. The Porsche.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's quite a nice looking car, but it's not £1,000 a month kind of car, is it?
No.
No. You get a Model X for that.
Exactly. Like, yeah, you can get a decent Tesla for that.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Anyway, which do you prefer then, Ioniq 5 or EV6?
I kind of look. I like the look of Ioniq, to be fair, but it's probably too small for my needs.
I think it's massive. I think you're going to be surprised just how big it is.
Again, this is what I'm saying. Like, until I see the car, or somebody like Bjorn, Tesla Bjorn. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm sure you've heard about Tesla Bjorn. Until he does his banana box test, we're not going to know exactly how big it is, because the looks are deceiving. I was surprised the other day. My wife kind of looked at the Kia, the EV6. I'm trying to get used to those names, EV6, and she said, "Oh, it's a massive car," and I was like, "You can't tell that from the photo. It's impossible." And I showed her the photo of the Volvo, which is kind of shot, on the pink background against the lamppost, and it looks small, and it's a massive hunk of a car. Like, it's a twice the size of the E-Nero almost. Like, it's a much taller and longer car.
Less boot though. Less boot space, I think. The E-Nero has got a bigger boot of the Volvo, because it's got that massive bonnet, isn't it? But
true.
Anyway, yes.
But
you're
it's
right.
a bigger car,
it's
so
yeah, it's all in the photography. Definitely.
I know from photography, like, as a photographer, I know how to cheat, basically, when it comes to not to cheat, how to represent the reality, because photos are always kind of just made up, like they're not representing the reality really. And you can make things look smaller or bigger depending on how you shoot things.
But I think we'll all be surprised just how big it is, though. But it's got, I think you said earlier, it's got a 3-meter wheelbase. If you go in there, I went to Kia to get it serviced a few months ago, my E-Nero, and they've got a big, I forget all the names of the different Kias, but they're massive SUV thing. I was looking at
Sportage.
that. And, it's I think it's even bigger than that.
Sorrento.
I think it was
Sorrento.
It could be. Yeah, that's it. Sorrento. Yeah, that must be it. And I was looking at that and thinking, actually, this car has got the same wheelbase. I think. Might have even been smaller, to be honest, than the Ioniq. The Ioniq 5. So obviously there's more overhang on that Sorrento thing, but still I was thinking, it's going to surprise us just how big the Ioniq 5 is. And it's going to be, of course, really roomy inside, and it's got that beautiful flat floor. And this is why this is one of the reasons I prefer it, I think, to the EV6. That interior, I think, it's really classy and stunning, and I love the flat floor. That's my favorite thing about the i3, is that flat floor. So I don't know, the Ioniq sort of wins it for me, even though the EV6 looks really special, and the EV6 looks like it's got a bit of an I-Pace look to it, and anything I-Pacey is good in my book because I love that car.
Yeah, I-Pace is a lovely car. And speaking of I-Pace, with that video that they shot drag racing against the fossil cars, I read on the forums that I-Pace actually users or owners were like, we've seen this somewhere before, like Jaguar did the same thing for I-Pace. Like they've just copied the idea.
Right.
But it was really surprising because you don't think about Kia as a sort of sporty car, right? And any electric car, it's not just Tesla, has way more torque than you can imagine, just because it's electric.
Exactly.
So good job, like taking the page out of the Tesla book, basically when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, I think it's great, and also, I mean, they've on purpose. So the GT, the EV6 GT, they've styled it internally with lime green and grey and black and things like that. So it looks quite, I don't want to say it, but it is. It looks quite sort of masculine and like the kind of thing that a boy would have on their wall if they liked fast cars and things.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably.
I know plenty of girls who love fast cars.
I know, of course, I know, but what I'm saying is that's clearly the market they've gone for, that kind of the Max Power style magazine and all that sort of stuff.
The chunky,
Yeah, it's that kind of look, which has never done it for me particularly. Whereas Ioniq 5, if you look at all the marketing for that, it's much more trendy, and they're sat in their car, the guy's wearing no socks and things like that. He looks like he looks a bit of a yuppie sat there with his laptop and whatever, so that speaks to me more than the EV6, because I'm probably more like that. I'm more of an espresso drinker than an energy drink drinker. So so I think it's really interesting. I'm obviously using these base stereotypes because that's exactly what the marketing is for these cars, and and I think it's interesting the way they've done that, and I think it's really good. It's really good the way they're going to corner the market, both Hyundai and Kia. In fact, I did do a poll on Twitter, and most people will like one or the other. They might not like both or whatever, or neither, but they've kind of, it was about kind of 45% for each or something like that, I think. That people liked on this poll. So I think it's really good. And if you don't like the Ioniq 5, you'll get the EV6, and if you can afford them both, of course.
So in the UK, the EV6 is going to be, I think, more than e-Niro was. I think I bought mine 35 grand, and I think it's going to start at somewhere around 40. So although we'll see how that's going to pan out with the new grant changes, the grant scheme changes. Again, I don't want to record these things on a podcast because things will change. Like in a week or two, everything will change. Like we don't know. But yeah, it's interesting how that the pricing goes. What do you think about the backside of EV6? Speaking of the styling.
I love it, and so that's my favorite. That's my favorite angle. I love the way the light goes down to the side. I mean, I don't like the front very much. The front looks very much, I think, like the Stinger, the Kia Stinger, which a lot of people like, but I'm not fond of it. I don't think the design of the EV6 is quite as good, for instance, as an I-Pace or even the Ioniq 5. I think the I-Pace, I think, is more. It all just works together. It just looks nice.
Yeah, but the whole thing is. I mean,
I know. But and okay, so also the Mustang, for instance. So the Mustang, I think, looks really good at the back. It's all right at the front, but not great. And it's got a weird face. But it's just, I don't know. It's almost like the sides, they go with an I-Pace look, and then they just do something else at the front and back. Jaguar, the I-Pace is just beautiful. They're all the way around, I think. So
yeah,
for my taste anyway. Whereas Ioniq 5, the whole thing, I think, looks like one. It's designed by one person. It's it's got.
I like the front on the Ioniq. The kind of the smiley kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but I like the styling of it. It is all kind of different. Like they didn't just go and be like, and we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna make it, the samey or kind of outlandishly bumpy like Toyota does, which I don't like the looks of any Toyotas or Lexuses. They're just
they're very over designed.
Probably on purpose, but I don't see any. Anyway, let's not talk about non-electric cars.
Yeah, certainly not from Toyota. but yeah, so yeah, Ioniq 5, very retro. It's kind of future retro, which I like. EV6 is more kind of future, but pretty classy. I think they're both brilliant looking cars. Anyway, I think they've done an amazing job on them.
Did you put a deposit on Ioniq or?
Yes.
Bastard.
You, that's an exclusive you got for the podcast, because I was waiting to, although I haven't discussed it with Flaviani yet, so I have to do the episode quite soon.
So that might not be true by the time this comes out.
Well, yes, it's true that I have to deposit down, but whether it's kept, I don't know. But yeah, I don't. The e-Niro is going back. I don't know what to replace it with, particularly the ID4. I think would have been pretty good. It seems very good, actually.
Yeah.
That would have been a good replacement, but I can't stop thinking about the Ioniq 5. And it comes out sooner than the
if you're leasing the, because you got yourself on some sort of a subscription. What is the company called that they got the subscription from?
Drive Electric.
Yeah.
Is that the other one? Yeah. So I'm actually leasing directly from Kia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and through the business. So for those that don't know, you get a massive tax break. Effectively, it all comes off your corporation tax if you lease a car through your company.
Yeah.
And so it's worth doing for that reason. And this year there's no benefit in kind tax as well, although it goes up a bit next year. But anyway, yeah, so there are lots of tax benefits. So I've been doing a business lease. I'll probably do the same again for Ioniq 5 because it's an expensive car.
Yeah.
If I actually get one, who knows what's going to happen? Might just.
You're living on the edge.
I'm definitely living on the edge. We're definitely getting the Fiat 500e, so I'm excited about that.
That's exciting, yeah.
Hmm.
How soon do you know anything about?
They called me today and they said that they'll have it in for driving on the 17th of April.
Okay.
And do I want to go for a test drive? And I said no, because I'm just, I know it's going to be good. The Fiat 500 was already fun to drive. Make it an EV. Of course, it's good. I'm not gonna delete my order. Just based on a test drive. So anyway, yeah, I'm just going to wait, and hopefully the end of the month, they said. But we'll see. It's been delayed quite a lot. But I can't wait for that. I think it's going to be a very fun little car to drive.
What are you going to be driving when you give the e-Niro back? Is it going to be empty car park outside the house, or?
So we are doing, the company Onto.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I meant by subscription.
That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So Onto do short term. They do like a month lease for cars. So yeah, I'm going to get something for a month, and hopefully we'll have the Fiat 500 by the end of that. And we're also going to get a second hand. We need a second car really as well, and so we're going to get a second hand Leaf as well, because yeah, you can get them. You can pick them up quite cheap, and we loved our Leaf. And and also going back to the size of it, the Leaf is just such a brilliant size. And this is such a stupid thing, but I don't, when I'm going to the tip to throw away all the crap from the house, I don't want to put it in a nice new. Well, I wouldn't fit it in the Fiat 500, but I don't want to put it in a nice new whatever else we get, So like an old Leaf that I don't care too much about, you could just throw it in the back of that. It's got loads of room. It's a great car.
For all its I mean, we've departed from the main subject, but for all its faults, Nissan Leaf actually, as a package, it was all right. Like all around, nothing was kind of extremely terrible or extremely brilliant, but all kind of it was a very well put together car in terms of like there was no squeaks or panel gaps or none of that jazz.
Exactly. It was just it was a very solid car. I thought.
It wasn't very efficient at high speeds, but it was all right to kind of drive around. I mean, I've done silly mileage in my 30 kilowatt-hour Leaf. I went to Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Lake District and Wales, all from this corner of Kent, and it was fine. Like,
yeah,
I've only run out once, but it was all my silliness, and it's like literally like 200 meters outside of my house. So
not too bad. Yeah.
No, yeah. But sadly, all up. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. If we had to pick up a second-hand car, I'd probably I'll probably go for a Nissan Leaf as well.
Yeah, we were so we did test a Zoe. This is going way off subject now, isn't it? So
Yes.
we did test a Zoe, and also I have videoed all this, but I've got about 10 videos I still have to edit. Anyway, yeah, so we tested a Zoe, but really my wife just didn't like the fact that it didn't have very much regen, whereas the Leaf has much more, even on the old model, because now you've got one pedal driving, but in the old model, as you know, you have B mode, and that was still quite good on the regen.
Yeah.
And the Zoe, this old Zoe we tested, just didn't have very much. So actually that swung it.
Yeah.
Other than that, the Zoe is good.
Yeah, Zoe's all right, but we had the original Zoe for a week from Polar Experience back in the day when that was still a thing, and before Polar got bought up by the giant old company and ruined it slightly, and we just didn't like the fact that it was very tinny, and I don't know. And the fact that I know it's like a polarizing thing, and people who love Zoe are all for it, but I didn't like the AC charging. I didn't find it very reliable. There were also like you had to turn off the car. This is again why Leaf is brilliant, because you just plug it in and it just takes anything. It just doesn't care. It's like, yeah, you plugged me in, I'm going to charge whatever. Whereas when I test drove i3, BMW i3 or Zoe, you plug it in and you look at it the wrong way, and it's like, nah, something's wrong. Nah. And you're on the because it doesn't have a great range, you go on a trip, even 2 hours up the road from us, and you need to plug in because it's got tiny battery, and you end up at the service station, it doesn't like it, and you're like, what am I going to do now? Like, if it doesn't like it, it's like I have nowhere to go. So I always loved that about Leaf as well, that it just like you can chuck any power into it and it's just going to take it. It's whatever the tolerances that they designed it with, they just work. Whereas the Zoe is, how do I put it mildly? It's too clever. The design is too clever for its own good. When you charge it using 3-phase AC, it basically reverses the inverter. So it's all kind of designed to be clever, and I think they could have done a much better job if they just put a CCS or CHAdeMO in the front and be like, there you go. But
yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, we didn't even consider that with the Zoe, but yeah, it's we're happy to get the Leaf, definitely. Yeah, so hopefully we get that this week. But anyway, going back to E-GMP,
one of the downsides, obviously, of the platform that we're driving currently, or you're going to drive for another couple of days, the E-Niro, is that the charging doesn't seem to be too fast if you don't deplete the battery past about 30-20%. For whatever reason, it's again, just going to the previous episode when I spoke to you, and he basically said that it's arbitrary. Basically, when they design the battery pack, it's whatever goals they set themselves, or kind of safety standards versus speed charging and of charging and all that. When they designed the BMS, they just kind of decide whichever way they want to go. And I think in case of Kia, they decided to go for safety and efficiency, because your car probably, after how many thousand miles, probably still has 100% state of health on the battery pack, because it's designed with so many margins of safety and reliability. It's unbelievable. Whereas some other car manufacturers just basically go for broke. And I think it's again, I was told by an expert, I should say, that it's completely arbitrary. So if there's a potential to have over-the-air updates, I'm sure Kia could twist that or amend that in some other ways. Because there's a massive buffer on the battery pack as well.
There's a very big top buffer. It's not very big, small. Sorry, a lower buffer. So that's what surprised me coming from the Leaf to the E-Niro, that I felt with the Leaf. I'd get those flashing lines that you get when you get into tortoise mode or even approaching tortoise mode. with the Nero, I feel like it's a bit more of a white knuckle ride, and the moment you start getting those flashing lines, it's bad things are going to happen quite soon. So that's what I've found anyway. Yeah, because Kia say it's 44 minutes to 80% to charge the e-Nero.
But from where?
Well, exactly. But no, this is the thing. This is my point. Now, I think, they're saying that from 10%, I think 10, 15%, whatever they've said. But I think it's like 44 minutes, whatever percentage you start at. It certainly feels that way anyway when I've charged it on some rapid chargers.
Yeah, yeah.
So
the way BMS seems to be designed on these cars is just for people who don't have or have never had any pleasure to drive one, it seems to be quick-ish to 80%, and then it kind of just drops down quite rapidly. And the estimate that it gives you past 80%, 80 to 100 is sometimes an hour, whereas to 80% could be super quick. And again, I think this is just purely arbitrary. So let's hope that the dedicated platform designed from scratch will fix that.
Should be, yes. 18 minutes, isn't it, to 80%?
Yeah.
I think on the very fast charger. So if you find a 350 kilowatt charger, and there are quite a few now, because I was replanning my John O'Groats trip, and I'd noticed that 2 more 350 kilowatt chargers are cropped up on that route. So I was thinking that's quite good.
Are you going to try?
I would like to avoid it. I'll definitely do it again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I might. If you need a co-pilot,
Yeah, that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Or just do it 2 different cars,
That would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I do have my Ioniq 5, then and you run out of charge, I can charge you up. You see, that's the beautiful thing with the Ioniq 5.
Oh yeah,
that's the other thing about the
the
other thing about the E-GMP platform we haven't mentioned is that you can actually plug something else into it, like a car or a fridge or whatever.
I mean, if you look in the instruction manual, and I know not everyone reads those, I do. I usually read manuals. It's just the nerd that I am. But there is a mention of an optional 220 volt socket in the back for some Neros, and I'm pretty sure when they released them initially in 2017 or 18 in Korea, they gave certain people the spec'd out versions, which had heat pumps, had everything that we're getting in 4 Plus now. Basically, they had in 2018 in the original spec. I mean, in a way, we get kind of cheated of things in the UK. We get slightly different configurations and different colors, and we have to pay more essentially for all the sort of extras. So whilst I want to be very optimistic and happy about those things, the cynic in me thinks that they might do the same thing again, and we might see that as a sort of extra optional. It might not be on every single car out there, which fair enough, because I don't think everybody needs that. I think it's a very niche kind of need of a feature. And the new standard of CCS, which I think is a draft now, I think it's been released as a sort of fully fledged one, does have a bi-directional charging. But again, I don't follow the CCS standard because you have to pay for to be able to even to read it, and it's quite complicated.
Okay. I wouldn't understand anyway, even if I tried. But
no, I mean, yeah. But I think they either want or they've already designed the bi-directional standard for DC basically built into the protocol, which is
well, it's about
amazing.
time too. I mean, CHAdeMO's had it for forever.
And CHAdeMO is such a again, I don't know the ins and out of it, but it's much simpler protocol to implement because it's just a serial communications, whereas CCS has multiple layers like a TCP/IP. It's super complicated, which is why so many chargers
and it's open. It's open to interpretation. Is that right with CCS? Whereas,
I mean, anytime you have a new layer of specification, there's things people can or implement one way or the other, and you multiply that, and it's like multiplying the error levels. You basically get with each level you get what's the word I'm looking for? You get basically a lot more complexity, which is why there's so many issues with OEMs getting the charging standards wrong and not being able to charge on certain chargers. I mean, I had problems now with the e-Niro on polar chargers, or BP Pulse as they call themselves now. So many times, like BP Pulse is basically it's a gamble for me now. I don't trust it. I've had so many problems. It's unbelievable. They used to make fun of ecotricity, and the tables have turned so much. I just don't understand, because they used to lease as I know that as a company they used to lease a lot of e-Niros themselves, the first edition. So they surely should be able to test that, because they probably have loads of them still. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, they do. Well,
that's why I'm personally surprised.
It's weird.
Or maybe my car is kind of has a different implementation of CCS compared to the previous editions. Who knows? I don't know.
I've only used it once and it worked fine, actually.
Okay.
I so rarely do any rapid charging anyway. The only one that I really have a problem with is Ionity. Ionity, I've had so many issues with them.
Okay, I thought it's just the cost of it that's the problem. But
well, the cost as well. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's what hurts even more, is that it's expensive and I find it unreliable.
Yeah.
I mean, in Scotland and Europe, it's perfect. Actually, it's just in England, I've had terrible success rate with Ionity. Yeah.
Anyway,
so
just going back to the E-GMP, so now they're part of the Ionity group. So hopefully, because there is a in the new CCS protocol, there is an extension that allows you to do the payment or a subscription or payment agreement basically via the protocol, the CCS protocol. So in theory, I think the only car that can do it now is the EQS, the Mercedes EQS, where you just literally turn up, plug in, and you don't have to touch any buttons on the Ionity chargers. It just does it. I think maybe Audi does it as well. Although I can't be.
But in theory, I think they could do that with any EV.
Yes,
I think I'm sure Fastned, because Fastned I think have that, don't they? And Tritium have just announced, haven't they, that they're it's a firmware update or something that for any Tritium charger. I think they can add that kind of plug and go.
I mean, it's by no means unique to the to the chargers. It's just they've implemented it already, and some cars already taken advantage of that. So you basically, if you have a Merc, you pay 10 or 20 quid a month, which I'm sure is nothing if you can afford that kind of car, and you get charging included as a sort of subscription. And I think VW certainly are looking into it as well, and it's going to be a thing on the E-GMP. It's a shame that they can't do it actively on the on my car, because I'm going to have this. I've only been leasing this car for a year now, so it's going to be another 2 years for us, unless they come up with some great offer and be like, you can have this amazing Kia EV6 just for less money or a month or whatever. I don't know how they would do it, but I'm sure they'll try to incentivize me somehow to move to the newer platform.
Yeah, it will be tempting, won't it? It'll be tempting. But the e-Niro is so good that would I? If it cost like an extra £200 a month or something, then I certainly wouldn't get the EV6, because the e-Niro is so good.
Yeah, so. And in theory, the new platform also there's, because I'm just reading on the site, they've made loads of incremental improvements, as you would, to the inverters. So when you have a DC, the battery is DC, and then you have to transform it into 3-phase current, and the speed of, or the frequency of it dictates how fast the motor will actually spin. And that's a pretty complicated, from electronics point of view, piece of equipment. And any improvement you can eke out of that, means that there's less heat loss, and also means more efficiency, which means more range from the same battery. So they've improved that as well by 3%, as far as I can tell, by the Hyundai's documentation. Compared to what? I don't know. I presume they mean compared to their Ioniqs and e-Niros and the current offerings. But that'll be
sounds very clever. Yeah. I just can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to see it in the flesh. And I mean, the fast charging thing, that's one of the, that's going to be the thing, I think, that really gets people getting EVs. I don't think it's the range so much as the charging. It's people want to be able to charge quickly, even though we all know that it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's a mental block for people who don't own an EV. They just don't realize. Like I drove to Milton Keynes, and in theory, Milton Keynes being Milton Keynes, I did plug in, obviously. And again, I had a problem with the BP Pulse charger. One didn't work, and the other one didn't recognize my subscription card. I had to pay with a payment card. I couldn't stop it with a payment card, even though it's and then it says on the screen, don't use this emergency stop button, and I just had to use it because I couldn't stop charging otherwise. I used the same card to tap out, and it just was like, no, card not recognized. Use the same card as you started with. I was like, it is the same card. It's But anyway,
it is one of those things you've just got to. Once you get an EV, I mean, it's an adventure, I think. So this is the way I think about it. EVs, it's just an adventure. And if you are quite an adventurous person, I think you're not going to have a problem. And even if you do have a problem when you get it, you're just going to accept that's all part of the exciting thing of having new technology and everything. Some people are really scared, of course, by it, and they're very, very tentative about getting anything different. Even though EVs, it's just like plugging in a phone, really. It's just you plug in your car. So it's not, it's not a big deal, but people really have to get over this whole thing about the length of time that you're charging.
Yeah.
And that's why these new cars that do charge so fast, or much faster, that's why they're so important, I think. Even if people don't get one of those themselves, it's just good to know that there are EVs out there that charge in 18 minutes to 80%.
Yeah.
It's an important step.
The charging speeds are not going to improve. Like it's just physics basically says no, is my favorite saying, which people hate me when I say that, but it is true. Like, there's only so much power you can push through a wire. And this is where, gasoline and kind of oil-based fuels were winning, but they're obviously we can't just use them forever. And no, hydrogen's not the answer. I'm sorry. But basically, what is going to improve is the capacity of the batteries and the ability to flatten that curve. I asked him about the solid state batteries, and he said yes, they are a thing, and they will improve and will get to a point where they're actually usable. It will take a while, and there's so many still chemistries that are in development that the future is still kind of open, and things will improve. But bottom line is, even if the car charged flat out at say 150 kilowatts, and you have a battery pack that's say 100 kilowatts to achieve 400-mile range or 500-mile range, that's still best part of an hour. Obviously, you can probably push more electrons through. And again, this is where the 800-volt platform helps massively, because it means you can have the wire that's the same diameter. If you increase the voltage, you double the voltage, you double the wattage, essentially, for the same amount of amperage, which is the sort of the size of the stream, if you like. And that's the only way we can achieve it. But there's going to be, we're never going to get to the point where we can charge the car in 3 minutes. I don't think that's ever going to happen. And I don't think we need that. Like, people stop at service stations around the block in the sort of domestic areas for quick stops because they can't charge at home. And on the long trips, people stop for sometimes much longer than I stop to rapid charge at the service station. So I'm sure they'll be fine.
Yeah, it's fine. And also, I mean, battery sizes will get bigger, and people won't be depleting them all the way down to 10% and then charging all the way up to 80 or 90 or whatever, Yeah. So people will just do little charges just to get where they need to go and top up. And also because probably prices will go up with charging, probably because there's all this infrastructure to pay for. So I think people, when they are out and about, they will just charge up a little bit. They probably won't deplete the battery and then charge all the way up. So point being, they will just charge for short periods, I think.
Yeah. Just little top-ups here and there.
Yeah, and it will end up being probably almost like a 5-minute sort of charge, because like the Ioniq 5, for instance, so 5 minutes, that gets you, what do they say, 100 miles or something like that? Is that right? No, that's too much, isn't it? It gets you a lot anyway. I can't remember what they say. This is where I should consult. I need to consult the webpage.
The new Kia E-GMP platform can be charged to 80% in just 18 minutes, 18 minutes. But again, it doesn't say from, what is the starting percentage.
Yeah.
The other obviously, I mean, we've mentioned.
Sorry, 62 miles. 62 miles in 5 minutes.
Okay, but that's to do 62 miles in the UK generally takes you well over an hour, even on the motorway, unless you're driving crazy speeds in the middle of the night when there's nobody around. And even then, you have to slow down and bend sometimes, and everyone always thinks that it's 70 miles an hour, therefore you can drive 70 actual miles per hour, and it never works out that way. in my
yeah, well, it certainly shouldn't on country roads and things.
I mean,
where people do.
I mean, even
go 60 and they shouldn't.
Obviously, because it's a dedicated platform, the battery pack is going to be much more compact. I think at the moment, if you look at the underneath the Kia e-Niro or Hyundai Ioniq, you can see the battery pack kind of sticking out. And
30 minutes later,
and got to bring something new to the table.
And this is just a hobby for me. Like, again, buy the merch. You can get a mug like this, you can get it with a rainbow as well these days. I do have a hoodie as well. You can buy hoodies and t-shirts and stuff. So highly recommend them. There's going to be a link down below. Subscribe. Anyway, let's conclude the E-GMP platform. So, I mean, we're geeking out because we kind of like what Kia Hyundai puts out there, and we're looking forward, both of us, to test driving one or even owning one in the future. And it's certainly just about time for them to release the pure EV platform. And I think it's certainly better than some other companies will just lease platforms like MEB for their own cars. Ford, and it's good that Kia and Hyundai have decided to actually just design their own. I think that certainly should give everyone hope for the future, and kind of they're just betting it on EVs at the moment, which is very good.
Yeah, and if you watch like the Kia brand relaunch and everything, they didn't mention anything other than EVs. I mean, they just said that EV is their future, and of course they conveniently forget to the fact that they're still selling fossil fuel cars and everything. But they're kind of betting the company on EVs. They know that's the future and that's what they're doing, and they've got both Kia and Hyundai. Of course, they've got pretty clear commitment to it, I think. EVs, and you can see from what they've what they said about the Ioniq 5 and the EV6 that they're proper good EVs by the looks of it, and I think it's quite a promising future. And obviously, once they come out, we'll see what they're like. But I'm more looking forward to what comes next, really, in the cheaper ones, because cheap 800 volt EVs are going to be really special, I think.
They will, yeah. Anyway, if you want to hear more from Andrew, you've got your own channel. You're a big shindig on YouTube. I'm just a small plum in here. But you can plug yourself if nobody knows your channel, which I would be really surprised.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I've got a channel and it's on YouTube, and check it out. Just type in my name, Andrew Till, Mr. EV, and you'll see it there. Yeah, I'm very sporadic with my videos. Unfortunately, it's I have a month of nothing, and then I have like 4 videos, one after another. So terrible for the algorithm. But anyway, I'm busy. It's a hobby.
So it's the same here. And when it comes to if you came from Andrew's channel, subscribe, buy merch, please.
Do it.
I mean, if anything, it just pays the couple quid that I need a month to actually keep up all the sort of podcasty stuff. That's all I'm begging people for. I'm not here to make any money either. Although if it's not a cheap if you can give me an EV to test drive every so often, please. Anyway, see you guys, and thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Greg. It's lovely talking to you.